Every man has a box somewhere filled with memories of a life he doesn't live anymore. I'm here to tell you to leave that box closed, because I opened mine, and the emptiness I let out has come back to be filled. You get to a certain age, and you start measuring your life in boxes. Cardboard boxes, specifically. You pack up a life to move into a new house. You pack up your kids' toys when they're too old for them. You pack up an office when you get laid off, or if you're lucky, when you retire. And then there are the worst boxes. The ones you pack after a divorce. The ones you pack when your parents die. My name is Frank. I'm 52 years old, and for the last 6 years, I've been living in a house that's 2 sizes too big for me. It's the house where my daughter, Chloe, took her first steps. The one where my ex-wife, Sarah, planted a garden of hydrangeas that I still can't bring myself to dig up. Every room is a museum of a life that isn't mine anymore. It's quiet here. The kind of quiet that has a sound. Last year, right after Thanksgiving, I decided it was time. Time to finally clear out Sarah and Chloe's closets. They'd been gone for years, living a new life with a new guy down in Arizona. But their things were still here. Ghosts in fabric form. It felt like a betrayal to keep them, and a bigger one to throw them away. So, I did what any good, guilt-ridden man would do. I decided to donate them. There was a clothing drive at the local VFW hall. Keep our neighbors warm, the flyer said. It felt right. It felt noble. I spent a whole Saturday pulling things from hangers, the scent of Sarah's old perfume still clinging faintly to a wool coat, the memory of Chloe's laughter seeming to echo off the little pink snowsuit she wore when she was 5. I packed it all into 3 big, black trash bags. Coats, sweaters, a collection of scarves Sarah had knitted, Chloe's old ice skates, even a pair of Sarah's snow boots she'd loved. I remember the feeling as I dropped the bags into the big donation bin. It was like a weight lifting, a clean slate. I drove home, made myself a stiff drink, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was moving forward. I was wrong. I wasn't moving forward. I was just inviting something else in. The first time it happened was about a week later. It was December, and one of those deep, bitter cold snaps had settled over Ohio. The kind of cold that makes the wood in the house creak and groan like an old ship. I was asleep, and a sound pulled me out of it. It was faint, almost imperceptible. A high, thin note, like a single voice humming on the wind. I laid there listening. The house was silent except for the usual groans and the hum of the refrigerator. I told myself it was the wind, the way it can sometimes catch the eaves just right and sound like music. I rolled over and tried to go back to sleep. But the sound came again. This time, it was clearer. It was a melody, a familiar one. Silent night. My heart started to pound a slow, heavy rhythm against my ribs. I'm not a paranoid man. I've lived in this town my whole life. But this was wrong. It was 2 in the morning. I got out of bed, the floorboards ice cold against my bare feet, and went to the window. The street was empty. A fresh blanket of snow covered everything, glowing blue under the single streetlight. There were no footprints, no cars, nothing. Just the snow, the silence, and that impossibly clear, single voice singing from everywhere and nowhere. I stood there until the song finished. The last note hung in the air for a moment and then vanished, leaving a silence that was louder than the music had been. I didn't sleep much the rest of that night. The next day, I tried to rationalize it. A car with its radio on, a neighbor playing music. But I knew better. The sound wasn't coming from a speaker. It was pure. It was present. 2 nights later, it happened again. This time I was ready. I was sitting in my armchair in the dark, a glass of bourbon in my hand, just waiting. Around 1:30 a.m., it started. The same song, Silent Night. But this time, it wasn't one voice. It was 2. A low harmony had joined the high, clear one. They were beautiful, perfectly in sync, but the sound filled me with a primal dread. I went to the front door, my hand shaking as I reached for the peephole. I flipped the little metal cover and pressed my eye against the cold glass. My breath hitched in my throat. On my front porch, under the dim yellow light, was a coat. It was Chloe's little pink snowsuit. It was just standing there, upright, as if an invisible 5-year-old was wearing it. The snowsuit was full, the arms slightly bent, the hood up, and the music, that beautiful, terrible music, was coming from right where a child's mouth would be. I stumbled back from the door, my heart hammering. I couldn't breathe. I watched, frozen, as the little snowsuit stood on my porch, singing its song. When the final verse of Silent Night ended, the snowsuit just collapsed. It fell into a heap on the welcome mat, a pile of pink fabric in the snow, and the music was gone. I didn't open the door. I stayed up all night, watching that pink pile on my porch, my old hunting shotgun resting across my lap. When the sun finally came up, casting long, gray shadows across the snowsuit was gone. There were no footprints leading to or from my porch. Nothing. It had just vanished. This is the part where a sane person calls the police. But what do you say? Hello, officer. My daughter's ghost clothes are singing Christmas carols on my porch. They'd have me in a padded room before lunch. So I did the next best thing. I went to the internet. I started digging, using search terms that felt insane to type. Singing clothes, haunted donations, Christmas apparitions. Most of it was junk. But then, buried deep in a paranormal forum from the early 2000s, I found it. A post by a user named Winter Watcher. The post was titled, "Has anyone else seen the carolers?" My blood ran cold. The post described the exact same phenomenon. Donating old winter clothes. The singing in the middle of a cold night. The clothes appearing, worn by nothing, singing a carol before collapsing. The user wrote about seeing his deceased father's old hunting jacket standing in his driveway, singing Good King Wenceslas. I spent hours reading the thread. There were only a handful of replies, scattered over years. A woman from Illinois who saw her grandmother's shawl. A man from Ontario who claimed a whole church was visited. And there were warnings. They were always warnings. Don't engage. Don't open the door. Whatever you do, don't take the clothes back. One post chilled me to the bone. It was from a man who claimed his brother, Eric Anderson, from Liverpool, had gone missing years ago. He said Eric had been a charitable man, always donating. The police found his apartment empty, except for a dozen pieces of children's winter clothes laid in a circle around his bed. The user was convinced it was the carolers. He believed they didn't just sing for his brother. He believed they took him. The visitations kept happening, every 2 or 3 nights. And with every visit, they grew. The third time, the pink snowsuit was back, and next to it stood one of Sarah's old wool coats. They sang, in the bleak midwinter, their 2 empty forms swaying slightly in the wind. After the song, they collapsed together, gone by morning. The next time, one of Sarah's hand-knitted scarves joined them. It just floated in the air between the 2 coats, about where a neck would be, gently twisting as a third, alto voice joined the choir. It was a performance, a ghastly, nightly pageant on my front porch, and I was the only one in the audience. They were rebuilding my family, piece by piece, out of the things I had given away. I started to understand. This wasn't a thank you. It wasn't a benign haunting. The forum posts were right. This was something else. A claiming. By donating those clothes, I had given them more than just fabric. I had given them the memories, the love, the life that was soaked into every thread. It was an invitation. And now they were here to collect. The week before Christmas, the blizzard hit. The wind howled, and the snow came down so thick you couldn't see the street. I knew they would come that night. The cold, the snow, it was their stage. I sat in the dark, shotgun in my lap, waiting. The singing started around midnight. But this time, it wasn't outside my door. It was inside. It was faint, muffled, coming from upstairs. From the closets I had emptied. My blood turned to ice. I crept up the stairs, my heart in my throat, the old wood groaning under my weight. The singing grew louder. It was a full choir now. God rest ye merry gentlemen. And it was coming from Chloe's old bedroom. The door was cracked open. A sliver of pale, unnatural light spilled into the hallway. I pushed the door open, and I saw them. The room was filled. Not with bodies, but with clothes. All of it. Every last piece I had donated. A dozen coats, sweaters, scarves, hats, and mittens, all floating in the air, arranged like a full choir. Chloe's little pink snowsuit was at the front, like a soloist. In the center, where a conductor might stand, was Sarah's favorite red coat. They were all there. They had come home. The air was frigid, colder than outside, and it smelled of wet wool and ozone. And the singing. God, the singing was deafening. It was beautiful and monstrous, and it vibrated through my bones, shaking me to my core. Then, the plot twist hit me. Not a twist in a story, but a twist in my understanding of reality. I looked at the red coat, the one that had belonged to my wife, and I saw something new. It wasn't just hanging there. It was gesturing. The empty sleeve was slowly, deliberately, lifting and turning. It was pointing at the one closet I hadn't emptied. My closet. The singing stopped. All at once. The silence was absolute. And in that silence, I understood the final, horrifying truth. They weren't just rebuilding my old family. They were making room for a new member. Me. They didn't want the clothes I gave away. They wanted the clothes I still wore. They wanted the man inside them. The warmth. The life. The final piece of the collection. The red coat drifted forward, slowly, silently. The other clothes turned to face me, an army of empty garments. I could feel a pull, a psychic tug, a cold invitation to join them. To let go. To give the last thing I had left. I don't know what broke the spell. Maybe it was survival instinct. Maybe it was just rage. I screamed, a raw, animal sound, and I ran. I fled my own home, out into the blizzard, wearing nothing but a t-shirt and jeans. I didn't stop running until I saw the flashing lights of a snowplow down the road. I never went back to the house. I called a disaster restoration company from a motel room the next day. Told them there was a furnace explosion, a small fire. I paid them double in cash to go in, bag up everything in the house. Every piece of furniture, every book, every scrap of clothing, and haul it to an industrial incinerator. I told them not to open the bags. They must have thought I was insane. Maybe I am. I live in a small apartment in Florida now. There are no seasons here. No snow. No bitter cold nights. My apartment is sparse. The clothes in my closet are all new, bought within the last year. There are no old memories attached to them. There are no boxes. There's nothing to give away. But sometimes, on a quiet night, when the air conditioning is humming just right, I think I can hear it. A faint melody, carried on an artificial breeze. A song I know all too well. They say charity is the highest virtue. A gift given with no expectation of return. But I'm telling you, listen to me. Be careful what you give away. You might think you're just cleaning out a closet, letting go of the past. But you're not. You're sending out an invitation. And there are things out there, in the cold and the dark, that have been waiting for that invitation for a very, very long time. They don't want your charity. They want your warmth. They want your memories. They want the empty space you've made. And they will always come to collect.